Japan, I really thought that, Japan was still radiated. There was, the food was going to be bad, the water was going to be unclean. But in actuality, the food there was just amazing. The place was just amazing. It was not radiated at all, and the water was drinkable and everything. And it really just changed my perspective of Japan.
Before we left Japan, I thought that it'd be more as a disaster site. But when we got there, I realized that they have recovered, and they're still recovering at the moment.
Before I went to Japan, my perception was that radiation contaminated everything in Japan. Their food, their water, everything was just contaminated with radiation. But after traveling to Japan and coming back and seeing their recovery process, you learn that radiation really hasn't affected the whole nation. Only certain parts are affected by radiation.
When I first heard about the tsunami that devastated Japan, I of course felt horrible for the people, horrible for everything they lost. It was very nice that our students took a great interest in helping them out. And then the experience that they had in Japan, they were able to come back and tell us the resiliency of the Japanese people, how hard they all worked, and how grateful they were for our assistance.
Before the Secaucus kids went to Japan, Japan was in turmoil and everything was a disaster. After they got back, we learned how well they recovered from it, and everything is prospering and they're doing great.
When I found out that the kid in Secaucus High School were going to Japan, I found out that some of my friends were going, and I was a little concerned, being the earthquake that happened 2 years ago, and anything can happen at any time. And then they came back, and I saw all the pictures, and I saw that recovery did happen, and it made me happy that they came back safe.
After hearing about the tragic events in Japan, I was heartbroken to learn that everything in Japan was absolutely destroyed. But once the kids from JSA returned from Japan, I learned that wasn't the case at all.
So contrary to popular belief, Japan is recovering actually very quickly and efficiently for two reasons, physically and emotionally. Physically, Japan has incorporated aquaculture, which is advanced technology built into the infrastructure, which hinders and prevents buildings from collapsing so easily from earthquakes and tsunamis. Two examples is when the Japanese government was able to respond very quickly, especially to a dilapidated road, in which they were able to recover the road within only 6 days. Also, a nearby airport, which was completely run down from top to bottom, was reconstructed and rebuilt within only 30 days.
So there have been rumors about the Japanese people and Japan itself not recovering as quickly, but in reality, after visiting Japan through the Kizuna Project, we were pleasantly surprised to find out that the Japanese people have recovered in so many different ways. They have recovered by rebuilding their destroyed areas and their affected areas from the earthquake and the tsunami. They're recovering by starting their exporting business up again, by clearing misconceptions about contamination. Through that way, they're recovering their economy, and also they're having tourists come in again and see their recovery. Therefore, their economy's been recovering quickly.
Emotionally, the Japanese people have this expression called Yamato Damashi, which means the Japanese spirit. So one of the many reasons why they are able to recover so quickly is due to the natural resilience the Japanese community possesses. So every time a tsunami or earthquake hits, instead of taking the negativity of that energy, they transform it into something more positive. And that's why they're able to recover with such speed and effectiveness, because they work as a natural community. And instead of working individually, every time a natural disaster hits, they know it's the best way to recover is to work with one another.
The most important way they've been recovering is personally, through human spirit. The Japanese people show this amazing resilience, and they never give up. So they've been recovering by not giving up hope. Instead of being upset about the past and crying about what happened, they're taking that experience and growing from it. They're building upon it, and they're doing so much better now. And people in America fail to see that recovery because sometimes the media makes it look different, but they are recovering, and they're recovering every day, and they're moving on, and they're becoming a better place to be. And the people there are becoming better people, and they're truly inspirational on how quickly they've recovered. Whereas we just suffered from Hurricane Sandy in the past October, and it took us so long to recover. But their schools, their communities, their neighborhoods, their government responded pretty quickly, and they have been responding since then. And they've built new roads, they've built new houses, they've built new communities for people who have been affected and who've been devastated by this catastrophe. But they're moving on, and they're growing, and they're recovering really quickly.
Relating all this to a specific moment in our Japan expedition was in a countryside, a local island called Oshima. We encountered two experiences there. One, the shrine, which symbolized the natural resilience of the Japanese, because after the entire island was swarmed over with the tsunami, the shrine was still left standing. And two, we met a local guide called Onadera, in which he was literally faced at the brink of death. But she told me specifically that at the brink of death, she felt the most animated and made the right decision by God and by will, and she was able to survive. Especially when she was basically deciding to take her natural route. And there was one path that diverged into two paths, and if she took her natural route, she would be swarmed by the tsunami and would die. But for some reason, by natural instinct or subconsciously, she decided to take another path. She was able to survive, and she actually saw firsthand the tsunami, the 149-foot tsunami, and was still able to survive.
When we were on our way to Japan, I thought that the Japanese people would be very depressed and unwelcoming, and I thought that would be hard to communicate with them. Aside from our language barrier, I thought it would be hard to communicate with them because they would be very sensitive to certain subjects considering what they had to endure. But once we got there, I realized how wrong I was. They welcomed us with open arms and bright smiles, and they made me realize that it's possible to go through such devastation and be able to move on and move past it and smile no matter what happens. We met a lot of people during our stay in Japan, and not one of them failed to show me that it's possible to experience such devastation and loss and be able to move on from it and learn from the past and be able to live a happier life from what they've learned.
Part of a way we kind of showed our support for the people was we actually refrained from taking photographs of specific things like the decimated houses and the replacement shelters for the people displaced by the tsunami. This also kind of showed that we really had a reverence for the problems that they were going through, and we did kind of feel for them.
As a global community, they need our support. Not necessarily money or materialistic objects. They need our emotional support. While we were there, they told us that a simple Ohayo gozaimasu, which is good morning, or a simple konnichiwa, which is hello, can help raise their spirits and give them energy to move on.
Now, moving to the main topic of the action plan, the Beauty Within the Devastation. We came up with this because we thought that within all of this, the crazy natural disasters that took place and the devastation, there was really kind of something awesome about all of that. It was really awe-inspiring, I should say, because just witnessing the sheer disaster and the Japanese people's resilience to these disasters and their ability to overcome these disasters and become even stronger was really, really beautiful. And it inspired us to not even spread the word about the disaster over there, but possibly even prepare ourselves for, God forbid, a disaster that could take place here.
The Japanese taught us that no matter what devastation brings, no matter what happens to us, that we could move on, and that no matter what happens, the cherry blossoms will bloom again.